And welcome to the second hour of American Agenda. I'm Heather Childers from the newsroom. Bob Sellers is off today. We're now joined by our family of co-hosts, host of Stacey on the Right and co-chair of Project 21, Stacey Washington, and former Nevada State GOP chairwoman and Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian. Also, former Colorado State Senator and chairman on the Committee to Defeat the President, Ted Harvey. Welcome to everyone. But first, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's mask mandate. We're going to talk about that again, causing some major controversy on Capitol Hill. Our next guest is suing Pelosi after being fined $500 for not wearing a mask on the House floor. This comes as Capitol Police have been told to start arresting visitors and staff for not wearing masks in the House chamber. But it did say officers should not arrest any member for failure to wear a mask or to comply with the mask mandate. Any member who fails to comply with the request to wear a mask should be reported to the House Sergeant at Arms office. Joining us now to discuss is Republican Congressman from North Carolina, Ralph Norman. Ralph, thank you, or Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Heather.
So what do you think about what is going on, and is this just all for optics?
Well, Heather, it's a combination of theatrics and hypocrisy. I listened in the other segment about Gavin Newsom and taking his son off the basketball floor about masks. Nancy Pelosi was seen, when she implemented the fine the first time, without a mask. This is all about the abuse of power. And to your listeners, this is more than just congressmen being fined for not wearing a mask. The science doesn't back it up. We learned yesterday that the CDC, which was the gold standard for what they determine as the true science, the doctor admitted that he didn't know what the CDC was made up of. Well, come to find out, it was made up of an unpublished report out of India with a vaccine that's not even approved in the United States. So this is government overreach at its worst. And the three of us, Massey and Green, are fighting it. We're going to sue her. And there comes a time to say enough is enough. And the arresting of staffers and others visiting our nation's capital, paid for by taxpayers, it's a tyrannical way of dealing with things that Ms. Pelosi is become addicted to. And she doubled down on it this morning because we got the memo about the arresting, which was a complete unbelievable joke, to be honest with you.
I mean, just the fact that we're still going through this at this point in time. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy also slammed the Speaker Pelosi, for her hypocrisy. Take a listen to what he had to say about it.
First, they tell us don't wear a mask, wear two masks, then they take the mask off. They said if Americans got vaccinated, we'd get our lives back. And we did. But what they also hate about hypocrisy is when you break your own rules. It's kind of like telling America you can't go get your hair cut, but you get caught on.
And then also, let's do this, your reaction to House Speaker Pelosi backing vaccine mandates back in March, but also look at the right side of your screen. Watch.
We need 100% of the members vaccinated because it just takes one to endanger others.
So, I mean, hypocrisy, the word of the day, you could say.
Heather, she's practices do as I say, not as what as I do. And she's a complete hypocrite. She's drunk on power. And that's why we call for Kevin McCarthy to do a privileged resolution to vacate the chair. The damage that she's doing to this country in such a short period of time is unbelievable. And that's why we had a press conference this morning, which we called her out for it. The lawsuit, we're going to follow through. We're not quitting on it. And this is tyranny. This is government at its worst. And she is masking the real problems in this country. Heather, we've got a border that's out of control. We've got mass inflation. We've got cities burning. We've got law enforcement that is pretty much disintegrating within our own eyes as we see officers getting shot. And here she is playing politics and passing mandates to wear masks when she doesn't even abide by it. And there are far other greater priorities than this.
Yeah.
So much for bipartisanship.
And from an administration that just continues to spend more and more and more money. When you take a look at the different states and individual states when it comes to the mask mandates, because this is what a lot of parents specifically are worried about as kids are scheduled to go back to school, do you think this is something that they are going to try or can mandate to children across this country?
I think they'll try it, but I think the states like South Carolina and others run by Republican governors will say no. We're going to fight back on this. We're going to open our schools. We're going to open our businesses. And we're not letting the federal government rule what we do. If I remember right, Heather, the states created the federal government, not the federal government creating the states. And this is a mass overtaking of our democracy. Freedom is what we're fighting with, and that's why we're not going to stand for these arbitrary rules that violate the Constitution, to be honest with you. Yeah. We're not going to stand for it. We've got a group that's fighting it.
Right. And I knew the governor of South Carolina is standing up against the mask mandates for kids when they go back to class, so that's definitely why I asked you. Congressman Norman from South Carolina, not North Carolina. I think I said that at the beginning, but I've lived in both states. But Congressman, thank you, as always, for joining me. I always enjoy talking with you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Heather.
Well, more fallout over Speaker Pelosi's new mask mandate in the House. Republican Congressman from Texas, Chip Roy, slammed the hypocrisy of the new policy as well. Listen to what he said.
And we have people infected with COVID coming across our southern border into Texas, and you all put masks up front here on the people's house? We got to go around and see, okay, we can't come to the floor. I can't execute my constitutional duty unless I wear a mask. Which is it, vaccines or masks?
So let's bring back our panel to talk about it. And I was going to go to you first, Stacey, drinking some tea there. Do you have some tea to spread about this?
A little bit of hot tea.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me back on your program. So I'm really upset by this because we do have over 170,000 people crossing, which is a record. We have record-breaking months every single month over the border. Only 30% of them are refusing the vaccine, but that's still 30% too many. And then there are COVID-19 outbreaks, and there's local reporting across the country on the southern border, where people who are in charge there are reporting hotels full of migrants where some of them are infected with COVID-19. So it is better for our elected members to address that instead of addressing whether or not members choose to wear a mask.
Yeah. Amy, your thoughts?
Well, I am actually pretty angry about this entire scenario because I have 4 children. I have my oldest that is going to be attending her first year of college in Hawaii, and we had to go through a pretty rigorous acceptance in order just to even get on the plane and then to be able to step foot on the island and then to participate in her life on the college campus. And if you don't think that vaccine passports or whatever you want to call them, QR codes, aren't coming to the rest of the states, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed because it's already in the works. And when you have to tell me that, just like what Stacey mentioned, we have illegal immigrants that are coming into our nation, COVID positive, and then you're going to slap a mask on my child's face that has to sit in the classroom for 7 hours straight, and then now you're going to see anxiety rise all over again. You're going to see mental health skyrocket all over again. And if you're going to tell my kids that they have to wear a mask while they play sports, oh, this mama bear is going to fight, because I do not want to see this happen. Our family we chose to become vaccinated. So how dare they tell us that we now have to mask up when we made the decision to protect ourselves?
Right. Yeah. So mask up for those who did not make the decision. Let's bring this up, though, and Ted, then I'll have you comment. Senator Ted Cruz slamming the CDC's credibility. Listen to this.
You know, the CDC has destroyed their credibility. A year and a half ago, the CDC was one of the most respected scientific organizations in the world, and they allowed themselves to be politicized with Dr. Fauci at the helm of the politicization. And right now, their credibility is in tatters because they behave more like an arm of the DNC than an actual serious medical and scientific organization.
So a lot of folks feel the same way, Ted.
Well, Senator Ted took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the same thing. If they were following the science and we all agreed that this was what the situation was and we believed what the CDC was saying, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. But as Amy was saying, you're setting up a scenario that kids that are 20 years old going off to college need to be wearing a mask. Statistically, kids under the age of 20 years old have zero chance of dying from the coronavirus, yet we're saying they have to be vaccinated to go to college. They have to wear masks to go to college. And not to mention all the kids that lost literally a year of their academic lives over the last academic year. And we're destroying that entire generation's academic possibilities because the CDC is not following the science. We need to get back to looking at what the science says, and there is legitimate science regarding this virus and legitimate science regarding the vaccine, but the CDC has destroyed their credibility.
We need to take the politics out of the science. Thanks very much, panel.